Hey, before we dive into this week's episode, if you've been enjoying the show, I'd love your support. Take just 10 seconds to rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps others discover the wisdom and inspiration that I share on the Pivot to Balance podcast. Let's build a community of balance seekers together. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to share the love. Now let's dive into the episode. Hello and welcome to the Pivot to Balance podcast. I'm your host, AK, and I hope you're doing well. In a world that pulls us in a million different directions and with a billion distractions, finding balance can feel like an ambiguous quest. Join me on this podcast as I try to navigate life's twists and turns with mindfulness, purpose, and grace. In each episode, we will dive into topics like self-care, personal growth, mindset shifts by sharing practical insights, stories, and maybe even interviews. Get ready to pivot, to recalibrate, and find your balance. Follow the Pivot to Balance podcast, and I will see you on the other side. Welcome back to another episode. Today we're diving into something that I think a lot of us have told and something that we can relate to, which is the feeling of wanting everything to change. You know that thought where we sit down and think, I just want my life to change. We've all had it at some point. But the thing here is simply wishing for change can actually hold us back from real transformation. I should know. I sat in Cleveland complaining every single day that I just want my life to change. I just want my life to change. And I just think there's just so many things that's happening here, right? So let's talk about that today. Let's talk about why waiting for that magical shift is not the way and what this mindset actually does to our brain and how we can approach it differently. And don't worry, I'm not going to talk about like magical woo-woo things here because we stick to purely science and logic. That's basically how I do all my research. So let's jump into it. All right, first things first, why is thinking, I just want my life to change actually a problem? On the surface, it's like everybody says this, right? Why is that a big deal? But what I have noticed is it's passive, right? It's about waiting for something external to magically shift, when in reality, real change requires action. So psychologically, the mindset creates a sense of learned helplessness. That's a psychological phenomenon where you feel powerless to change your circumstance because you've convinced yourself that it's all out of your hands. It's like saying, I cannot change my situation, so I'll just wait for something to happen. Now, this is where like science kind of intrigues me because our brain thrives on familiarity. The brain's main function is to keep us safe. And it does that by sticking to what it already knows. When we focus on vague desires for change, our brains don't really know what steps to take because there's no clear direction. It doesn't have this history that it can refer. We kind of remain stuck in the same patterns because neurologically, we're telling our brains to wait instead of act. So basically, our brain is wired for action. When we focus on something specific, like taking a step toward a goal, we activate the brain's prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that's responsible for planning and decision making. So when that area is engaged, it signals other parts of the brain, like I really hope I'm going to say this right, dopaminergic system, which is involved in reward and motivation. According to a study published in the Journal of Neuroscience, action-oriented thinking focusing on what you can do activates these areas of the brain. The dopamine released when we achieve even small wins is what fuels momentum. So when we sit around and think, I just want my life to change, we're actually keeping those systems dormant. So there's no dopamine rush because we're not doing anything that triggers a sense of achievement. There's also something called the default mode network, which is the part of the brain that's active when we're not focused on a task. So when we're daydreaming or thinking about the future, which we all love to do, this network can sometimes lead to overthinking or ruminating on what's not going right. That's what's called overthinking, right? All of us do this. Rather than motivating us to take action, we're just like stuck in that mindset of just wanting things to change without actually taking any action. You're likely over-engaging this part of your brain is basically what I learned about myself. The biggest key takeaway here is that change isn't about hoping for a better situation. It's about clarity and action. A study by Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck, it talks about the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. I love talking about this. People with a fixed mindset believe that their abilities and circumstances are static, which means
They wait for external changes, but people with a growth mindset believe they can take control of their circumstances and make things happen. So the trick here is to get very specific. When you say, I just want my life to change, what exactly do you mean? Do you mean you want a new job? You want better relationships? More financial stability? You need to define what change looks like for you, because once you define it, your brain has a clear goal to work toward. And it can engage those action oriented parts of your brain. This ties into something called goal setting theory. I know I'm saying a lot of things. It's only because I've learned a lot this past couple of weeks. So goal setting theory, it states that specific and challenging goals lead to higher performance. So the clearer you are about the change you want, the more likely you are to make it happen. It's why vague wishes for change don't move the needle, right? But specific actionable steps, they actually do. Which is why when people say manifest, they tell you like be very specific about the dream life you want. Recently, there was this chat GPT prompting thing that's going pretty viral, which is like you need to be very specific on what you want. Imagine you living your best life, because that's just how it works.
Hey, if you listen to this podcast, I think you will also love my newsletter, Elevator Gazette. I talk a lot about elevating your professional and your personal lives. Make sure to subscribe to my newsletter. Go to anushakanan.com/email list, and I'm sure you will love it. Join everyone who is like-minded. And now let's get into the episode.
Another thing I want to talk about is the psychology behind baiting versus acting. Studies show that we tend to overestimate how much external change will improve our happiness. This is called the impact bias, a cognitive bias where we think big changes like moving to a new city or getting a promotion will make us happier than they actually will. But the reality is those changes often don't have much of an impact as we imagine. So I moved to Boston from Cleveland. I didn't immediately become happy. Yes, I was happy to be back in a city that I really love, but did my life 100% change? No, there are still a lot of the things that, I'm still facing, I'm still going through, which is why there's a lot of conversations around when you leave a certain relationship, you feel like your life has changed. But the problem is you are still you, like you're still the same person that you were when you were in a relationship. The same thing happens to a job. The same thing happens when you're studying. The same thing happens when you think that grass is greener on the other side. A study from Harvard found that the happiest people aren't those who wait for life to change. They are the ones who consistently take small actions that align with their goals. So instead of hoping for a miracle, I've been doing this, so focus on small manageable steps, because it's a tiny shifts that compound over time into real transformation. Okay, that was a lot. So AK, how do you shift from wishing for a change to actually creating it? So first off, just recognize that nothing changes if nothing changes. You cannot just wait for a sign or for the perfect time. Trust me, even if the universe or God gives you the perfect sign, you will still ignore it, because that's just who we are as people. We have to focus on creating these opportunities. So here's a quick framework, spoken like a true girl who loves business. Number one is define your why. Get clear on why you want the change. Is it to feel more fulfilled? To live in alignment with your values? Having a strong why keeps you motivated. Why do I want to get up and film videos? Why am I doing not one, but 2 podcasts? Number 2 is set small, achievable goals. I spent a lot of my time when I moved to Boston thinking I want to do a lot of videos, like so many things I want to do, but then I actually never did it. So I told myself, just film this one video. Just do this one episode. That's it. Don't think about how that's going to go. Don't think about how many videos you have to film in one take. Just get out of your pajamas, put on a cute outfit. Don't try to look cute. You're already cute. Just go sit, make a video, create one, edit it. Cool. Because when you break down what change looks like into small, actionable steps, and you focus on progress over perfection, things become a lot easier. Number 3, track your wins. I talk about this on almost every episode, because when you celebrate small wins, like I like to share whatever I've done with my mom, because I tell her like, I filmed this video today. Tell me what you think about it. That makes me feel happy. That is how I celebrate my wins. Sometimes I go get myself a candy bar, because why not? Like I want to have a candy bar. Or sometimes I go for a long walk because that makes me happy. Because remember that each step forward, no matter how small, it engages those reward centers in your brain. And that's what's going to help you keep moving. The last one is be flexible, because Just know that the path to change won't always be linear. Be open to adjusting your approach as you go, because I remember when I started like a little bit of this, and I would dip, especially, during my cycles. If I'm not feeling like I want to do something, I'll complain, like I will punish myself for not doing what I said I would do, which is where I'll say be open to adjusting your approach as you go. All right, balance seekers, here's the big key takeaway. Waiting for life to change does not work because it keeps you in a passive mindset. Real change happens when you take control, set clear goals, and engage your brain's natural reward systems through action. So if you've been stuck in that "I just want my life to change" mindset, I highly encourage you to take one small step today. One small step today, but that has to be actionable. Don't just make a plan, don't just set a goal. Just get clear on what you want and actually do something that will count towards that. Do something to shift the needle. And if you want to dive deeper into neuroscience of change, make sure you're subscribed to my Elevare Gazette newsletter. I'll be breaking down more insights on how our brains are wired for action and growth in my next issue this Sunday. So, yeah, go grab a cup of lemon water. Remember that change starts with action, not waiting. Tell me what your next steps are, and I would love to learn from you. Until next time, bye.